was a lot of fun. Roger Yasukawa, ex-driver. Well, I shouldn't say ex-driver, current driver.
His spotter.
He's just not driving right now, is the spotter for Takuma.
Well, that car went a long way from when it contacted the wall to where it stopped. Takuma was battling for a 4th place in the oval race at Kansas earlier this year and had a similar fate. And you can see the rear wing of that car is in the middle of the racetrack. And Takuma says that he's okay. Let's hope that is the case. All right, let's take a look, see if we can find out what happened.
High side of the racetrack.
And this is where the bumps are, right in there, right where the sparks are.
Something broke on the car, I think.
Yeah, it just went right.
When you see sparks continuous as opposed to just bumping, something let the right rear of the car down. Now at this point, when you knock one of the corners off, that knocks off the brake line, and you don't have brakes, and you're going for a long coast.
And you can see he was trying to turn the wheel to the right with that one tire.
Going.
But what there is there's bumps right in the middle of turn 1 and 2. That's where the tunnel is into the racetrack. So when we first saw those sparks, that's when the car loaded up, hit those bumps. And the further you are up on the racetrack, the higher you are in that groove, the worse the bumps are, according to the drivers, as this track kind of, matures.
So Takuma is out of the car under his own power and will be checked over at the infield care center. Meanwhile, it's Franchitti, Power, and Danica Patrick. Here are the push to passes remaining for Will and for Danica. Remember, they started with 20. And they're of 12 seconds duration.
And you don't want those overtake buttons, push to pass buttons. You don't want to just always use them to pass people. You want to keep them at the end of the race in case you need to defend your position as well.
Dario Franchitti, the leader of this race. This is the 4th race at Texas that Dario has led in 7 starts. Under caution for the 2nd time here at Texas, and you can see these yellow lights. They're on the poles along the front stretch here at Texas Motor Speedway, a brand new innovation. They stretch 3,750 feet from turn 4 to turn 1, incorporating 168 LED light bars and 5,544 LED lights, just to keep the folks here at Texas abreast of what is going on the racetrack. Lindy?
And Ryan Hunter-Reay came in, and they've just been fighting these same speed issues. He says they've had them at Kansas and Indy. It's basically an exercise in engineering. He's not really pleased right now. And also, they've been struggling with all weekend radio problems. And at the beginning of this race, even his spotter upstairs, they were trying to switch things in and out, Bob, to see if they could get any help with that at all.
All right, we'll keep an eye on Ryan Hunter-Reay. Let's go down now to Jack Arute, who is in the IZOD Performance Pit Sitter. Jack?
Guys, down here in the IZOD Performance Pit, we always talk about pulling G's, especially in a high bank track like Texas. Well, I did a little research and found out that a guy's head or a gal's head weighs between 8 and 9 pounds. So what I did is I went to the bowling alley, and we're going to try and approximate what it feels like on your head. My friend Victor Williams here. Okay, so this is going to be 1.5 G's. He's going to add another one. Now I'm pulling 3 G's. I don't know about you, but I wouldn't want to have to do this for 2 hours.
I'm trying to think to go, where do we take that, Jack?
Yeah,
man.
Yeah, I'm speechless. I just... On June 20th, World Extreme Cage Fighting returns live on Versus, and maybe that's what you should get into, Jack, with your helmets. Hard-hitting former champ Jamie Varner looks to fight back to the top, but first he'll have to down undefeated contender Kamal Shalorus. Varner-Shalorus World Extreme Cage Fighting, live June 20th at 9 o'clock Eastern, only on Versus. Here's Robbie Floyd with Takuma Sato.
Well, it's good to see you out of the infield medical center so quickly. What happened?
Actually, something failure. The car fell straight into the wall. I couldn't steer. So with a little shock, the bumps, and something must have failed and broken.
You You're in 19th place at the time. What was your impression of this track, the few laps you had on it tonight?
It was honestly impressive. At the start, beginning of the race, I really enjoyed it. It's such exciting and a really great facility to go side by side, and I was really happy with. But then starting to just struggle the balance at big time, so I was falling apart, and I have to wait until first stop.
Limited practice time only yesterday in the car on the track. How much has it changed from midday or morning yesterday to right now?
It was a significant difference, a lot more grip than yesterday, the daylight landing time. I think now it's a lot cooler and increased the grip, so I think its car's going to faster.
People were wondering if you could run side by side. We haven't had this aero package this year. Were you starting to get that feel of what it's like running 2 and 3 right here in Texas?
It's okay as long as keeping a good balance. You can go 2 wide, and always going to the 2 wide, and it's a long time as well. And it seems to be working everything okay. It's just a question of how the balance you have. Unfortunately, at the first stint, most of the guys having a problem too on the balance.
Thanks, Taku. I'm glad you're safe.
Thank you.
Takuma says it was a failure on the car, and we would agree with that. Rafael Matos started 23rd, currently 11th. He has gained the most positions of any other driver at 12. Now, we said in the pre-race show, but I think it's worth repeating, both of the DeFerrin Dragon cars were crashed in the Indianapolis 500. The team worked 463, was it, man-hours to get this one car ready for Rafa.
Which was a 12-hour day, followed by a 17-hour day on Tuesday, a 17-hour day on Wednesday, throw it in the truck, following what was nearly 17 consecutive days of hard work in the heat of Indianapolis.
So it's safe to say it's not just the drivers that love this game. It's the guys that are committed to putting the cars back together, keeping them together, and keeping them running fast.
Dan Weldon currently running in 9th position in the National Guard car. Dan Weldon has led more laps here than any other active driver, and he has 6 top 10 finishes in 10 starts.
Well, I think what we heard from Sato with regards to, he said it feels like there's more grip in that racetrack. All that's going to do for us right now with watches is you're just going to see more guys up on the high side of the racetrack and on the low side of the racetrack.
Thomas Scheckter is the one who has led more laps here than any other driver. I will correct that, as Justin Wilson, who has had problems from almost the start of the race, was in and now out with the top off of ethanol.
And there was nothing to lose for him because he was already at the back of the pack.
Yep. Okay, let's see what happens here as we go green. Boy, they line up 2 abreast, and Danica Patrick is kind of boxed in there.
Yeah, Briscoe had a jump on the outside of her. Danica kind of got boxed behind Will.
Boy, Franchini has just taken off and left this pack to fight amongst themselves.
Yeah, if you're at the end of the front of this pack, you always want to gap yourself however you can. But you want to leave your special stuff for the end of the race. You don't want people to figure out your strategy this early, so when you come to that last restart, you know what to do. So you don't want to give it up too early.
Danica still in the battle for 3rd position with Ryan Briscoe on board with Ryan.
Just went to a higher gear because he's in the draft.
She just used a push on the overtake assist.
We knew where we were going with that. Overtake, push to pass, yep.
Now Briscoe gets the advantage.
So she used it in a defensive mode, but Briscoe still on the high side, had the run and got it done.
Yeah, but look at Dan Weldon. Talk about momentum.
Yeah.
He's on it.
Weldon just had to dump the throttle there because Canan got checked out. And look at on the outside of Weldon. Oh, man. Helio. I'm just going to hand you a popsicle, Dan. Here I am.
Here comes Scheckter in the 24 car.
Yeah, look out for him on the high side. He's not afraid to put it up there.
And he is the driver who has led the most laps here of any active driver.
These cars are much better We talked about those over 1 trillion possibilities for a setup, and these engineers have made changes at the first stop, and a lot of these cars are much better than they were.
And we talk about Thomas Scheckter leading the laps. What he wanted to do, Jan, in that practice last night, he was struggling in traffic to run flat in turns 3 and 4. He said, guys, the key to this race is to run flat all day in traffic if you can. And he was having to give too much up in turns 3 and 4, so that's what I know he's been adjusting for.
Robbie, the other thing that he was concerned about is the bumps all the way around the racetrack. The concern was unlike other drivers. When I talked to him about it, he said, I really don't